Three Dog Thursday does roll on, and the video roundtable has a couple of more great participants. I'm going to welcome in my guests here on the segment. A reminder again, if you're only hearing us, find the video version on YouTube or through a social media link and see what these dudes look like, because one of them is a piece of work right now that you got to see on the video, to say the least. I love this. Let's introduce him first. Colby Dant from the Sports Gambling Podcast Family Network of shows, and the College Experience is the name of his podcast. You also hear him on the College on the Sports Gambling Podcast. You see him there as well, but his podcast, again, is the College Experience. Colby joining us from Los Angeles. And do you want to let the peeps in on what are you up to right now? Welcome.
I'm in line at Wells Fargo. Guys, I don't know if this is happening in Florida, but I have a Wells Fargo literally like 10 feet away from my house. But in my apartment, I have to pay for laundry with quarters, and there's a quarter shortage going on in America right now. So this is my fourth bank today that I've been going to try to find quarters. I think the Russians maybe got the quarters. All the Russians got the quarters or something.
So we have no quarters. No quarter given, no quarter taken, no quarter anywhere, and you're in line at the bank right now, hopping on the podcast tape. That is outstanding. I have to say, it is a first right now that we have a guest who's in line at a bank to get quarters. So that's Colby Dant, who's all the way out in Los Angeles, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast and their network of shows. Meantime, my buddy Chris Fischer, longtime sportscaster, not just in the Tampa Bay area, but in the Miami area and other parts as well. He is back on with me. Great to see you. How are you, one Chris Fischer?
Doing well. Better than Colby, who apparently can't get quarters or no safe quarter, having to live in an apartment in Los Angeles. I'll tell you, just your traffic problem alone out there, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that area.
And so we're all just trying to persevere. My man is in line. So just so I know, is there a certain signal you're going to use if it's your turn at the bank and you need quarters? How's that working, Colby?
Well, you know what? I actually sent the girl in there, so I'm in line still, but I'm still here. But I mean, she's gonna figure that out. So, but I mean, dude, I thought I'd be back at the house for this interview. I went, just for a 5-minute walk across the street to get quarters. That didn't happen. Went to another Wells Fargo. That didn't happen. Went to another Wells Fargo. That didn't happen. And now I'm at the fourth one, and who knows? Who knows what's going on?
Chris, by trade, these guys with the Sports Gambling Podcast, they are comedians. And so this has got to be part of a comedic bit that you're going to end up having to go to like a panhandler that actually has change and make change instead of the bank. That may be what you have to end up doing, Colby.
Yeah, I mean, dude, desperate times call for desperate measures, apparently. I know I also I got the mask, the bandana mask. I don't normally dress like this, guys, believe it or not. Right?
Is that part of the problem? You're walking in with a bandana mask and they think you're going to rob them, so they turn you away?
Hey, I do appreciate that, that the fact that this is the one time I've always wondered what it would be like to wear a bandana into a bank. So and not only a bank, multiple banks in a day. So it is like I'm knocking off several banks, essentially.
Colby is
you're like
outstanding.
Point Break without the surfboard.
I love it. A reference there. Special Agent Utah. All right. So this is all good. This is all good stuff. I don't know how I rein this in, and I've already lost control here on Three Dog Thursday on the video on the roundtable right off the bat. All right, let's go over the topics. We were talking earlier in the podcast that at the time we're taping, it doesn't look like it. It will probably be official later on Wednesday that Dak Prescott's going to get a long-term deal from the Dallas Cowboys. So the latest that we know, he's going to play for the only for the $31 million franchise tag. We see that on the screen right now. Adam Schefter was tweeting about that earlier today. Long-term deal after he saw what Patrick Mahomes got last week. He could be making $250 million guaranteed. That deal not coming apparently for 2020. Reaction here from the panel about this. Let's start with Colby. You're at a bank. It's all about the bank right now. It's all about the money, Colby Dant.
Yeah, man, I mean, dude, maybe we can get him some quarters too, because I think that's where it's headed. Because look, and I like Dak Prescott as a human being, seems like a good guy, but I mean, I don't know that he's performed good enough to demand the money he's been demanding. I don't know how you guys feel on that, but I liked him at Mississippi State. I liked him. I don't like the Cowboys, but I've always liked him. But I mean, come on, that type of money. I don't know that he's proven it yet. They just signed Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton is look. There's one thing that can destroy your career as a quarterback, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think Andy Dalton's got some talent. So I mean, beware what you wish for. I'll just say that.
Chris, is he making a mistake that he didn't agree earlier this offseason or last year to the long-term deal and is letting it ride, if you will, on 1 year? Granted, it's a $31 million payday, but is he risking the long-term Dak Prescott, or how much is he risking it?
I don't think he's risking the long-term, because if you look, he has that offensive line. He's got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. He has Amari Cooper, who the Cowboys have paid, Coop and Elliott so far. And by paying those two, there's not a lot of meat left on the bone to be able to pay Dak Prescott. But the thing about Dak Prescott is he hasn't outperformed Carson Wentz, who just got $100 million guaranteed. Well, according to Jane Slater with the NFL Network, the Cowboys are looking at that $100 million guaranteed range right now. He's not on the Patrick Mahomes level. Look, he's been to 2 playoffs so far in his 5 seasons in the NFL. He's only won 1 playoff game. Now, Carson Wentz has been hurt, but he's at least led the Eagles to the playoffs, played like an MVP caliber quarterback, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Dak Prescott this season going into it and with a one-and-done type of situation with him and getting that $31.25 million franchise tag, it's not a bad payday. But then again, the NFC East belongs to the Cowboys at this point, just on paper, because they look like they could run the table in that division this year. And if they're able to do so, get back into the playoffs and accumulate those playoff wins, then the money will come for Dak. But at this point, when you don't know what the salary cap's going to look like in a couple of years, or, the structure of that situation, yeah, I think the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, as much as I can't stand them, are doing the right thing.
Voice of Chris Fischer. By the way, find him on social media at Chris Fischer 07, like 007 without the second 0. Chris Fischer 07 on Twitter. Also with me is Colby Dant. He's at the Colby D, THE, Colby, COLBY, and the letter D for Dant, the Colby D on social media. And these guys are kicking around the NFL and the high-priced contracts. Again, the argument can be made to both of you. Colby, I guess we'll go to you first, that Mahomes' deal is a sign of what's to come. And there's a large television deal and a salary cap raise coming, and I'm sure that's what Dak Prescott and his advisors are looking at right now. Is that kind of money, 200, 300 million could still easily be there for Dak Prescott if he has a good season.
I guess my thing is if you're the Cowboys, I don't think there's much of a difference between Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton. I truly don't. Behind that offensive line, yeah, I get it. Dak Prescott's played better in the past couple of years, but I think Andy Dalton's a very capable quarterback. So I think from their point of view, they're like, hey, if he doesn't want this money, we'll just go with Dalton. And I still think you'd make the playoffs. I know they're traditionally on paper they're really good, but they haven't really been able to put it together. But I would say Dalton gives him as good a chance as Dak Prescott does.
Is the risk worth it, Chris, in that he could still get $200 million guaranteed if he has a good season, because the salary cap is going up, new TV deals, that 3 or 4 years from now it may pay off that he's doing this?
Well, my big question, first off, is what is it going to look like with that money coming into the owners with this NFL season coming up? Because we may not have fans in the stands, so that's obviously going to take away from their pockets, and they're not going to want to put that money back into the team. Jerry Jones always spending on his high-priced Cowboys. But at the same token, what is new head coach Mike McCarthy going to think of Dak Prescott once he gets a chance to be able to work with him? Remember, we're not having OTAs and all these types of practices, so that hasn't been set in stone. Before this hard deadline at 4 o'clock today for Dak, whether to go with the franchise tag or get another deal. But I think if Mike McCarthy says, this is my guy and he's the guy of the future, then you'll see that big contract. But at this point, I just think there's too many variables out there where Dak may not get it. Now, Colby, to speak to your point, the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, yeah, he's a capable quarterback, but I don't think he's got the athletic skill of Dak. And Dak's able to keep plays going. So that's a big part of the situation and the offense that Mike McCarthy had with Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying Dak's Aaron Rodgers by any means, but that's a valuable portion of the offense that McCarthy saw when he was with Green Bay. And coming to Dallas, now he's got an athletic quarterback in Dak, and I think it's very adaptable to see what he was able to do with that offense.
All right, so we'll see what ends up happening with him, with his contract. We progress along with the NFL. What we're wondering, and Colby, again, is big into the college. You and I, Chris, are as well. But Colby's podcast is focused on the college experience for college football, college basketball. Are we going to have a college football season? Everybody keeps asking this, keeps wondering this. The SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, saying over the weekend that his concern is very high right now, high to very high, that they may not be able to have a season. So that sounded a warning alarm there that this is the SEC talking here. We talked earlier in the podcast. I do believe this, that the SEC will find a way to play. So will the Big Ten. So will the ACC. I can't speak to everybody else. Let's vary it up. Chris, I'll go to you first. How concerned are you that we're not going to have college football for the upcoming season?
I'm very concerned from a fan standpoint, because it has been said here just with the University of Miami, they view themselves more as an academic school than they do a football school. And obviously in the SEC, football is like church. College football is massive. And if they're not able to get students back on campus first and foremost, besides the football players in the dorms, I think university presidents are going to have a very hard time saying, hey, we're okay with the football teams playing, even though we're not paying them, we're giving them scholarships, but there is no school right now. So how would they go about playing college games only to make their money off of TV revenue streams? And basically all it is at that point is a cash grab. They're no longer really a university and educational system.
He's in line at a bank. We're talking more about bank. He's got a Washington State hat on. Give me the West Coast perspective. How concerned are we that we're not going to have college football?
I mean, we got the numbers increasing. I'd say, I mean, look, I don't I'm previewing every team on the college experience, Division I, but I just don't think it's going to happen, mainly because even if they sign a waiver or something, you can still sue as a good buddy of mine who owns a law firm. Like, you can still sue. So I think you put yourself at a lot of risk if some players get hurt or if they come see their mom and their mom gets sick or something. So I just think, unfortunately, because this really hurts. You know, we got hit with March Madness and now we're getting hit with this. I understand the reason for the SEC and some of the Big Ten and some other schools in the country that really depend on this, college football's finances to really make their town go. So I get it, but I as an institution, like you guys mentioned, I really don't see it being able to work unless we get a cure going fast.
Which is not realistic. I mean, honest to God, it's not realistic that in the next 30 days or 60 days, you're suddenly going to have a vaccine to save the beginning of the football season for that reason. But that brings up the one more point, just a quick answer from both of you. I don't know what the harm is in the middle of July to say, let's wait and evaluate. And even if it's delayed, guys, even if you don't start until October 1st, I'm not saying they will wait that long, but you could still wait, as opposed to what the Ivy League did. And the Ivy League does not compare to the SEC and the Big Ten in terms of what's at stake, television and revenue. The Ivy League is like Joe's hamburger stand saying, hey, we're canceling. And now McDonald's would say, hey, we're not going to serve hamburgers. That's not the same thing. But the Ivy League went ahead and said in July, the second week in July, we're not playing at all for the fall for anything. I don't know that you have to do that right now in the middle of July. Chris, you first, quick.
Well, the Ivy League were trendsetters originally with the coronavirus and shutting down their leagues in springtime play, and then we saw everybody else follow suit. So at them already setting the stage for this, I think it's going to make the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, all those guys susceptible to say, okay, let's follow their suit. And like you suggested, TJ, let's push it back. I mean, football's a winter sport, for crying out loud. And then we don't have to hear the complaining down here in Florida about a player overheated and those type of problems with dehydration. So if it's a winter sport already, push it to next later into the winter and play bowl games in February. I don't think anybody is going to be pissed off by coming down to Florida in February when it's a beautiful 70 degrees, as opposed to coming down here a couple of months and missing Christmas break, essentially, too. That's a big portion of it.
All right. Colby, just real quick on that point about you don't have to make this decision right now, do you? You can make this decision in August or in late August if you want to cancel.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. But at the same time, I'll say this. I can't give the guy's name, but I am friends with an athletic director in the Big 12 who told me the Ivy League doing that kind of forces their hand because they're the smartest institutions in America. So you're going to look really bad if you go against what they did. And then all of a sudden one of your players gets sick or God forbid they really get sick, but I mean, or pass away or something. But in general, it forces their hand and it's just not, it's really a bad situation. I'll put it like that.
Colby Dant, again, if you're only hearing us on the podcast, find him as part of the Sports Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast network of shows. The College Experience is the name of his podcast. Longtime colleague of mine, longtime sportscaster in the Tampa Bay area and in the Miami area is Chris Fischer. Find him on social media at Chris Fischer 0707. There online. Let's move to one more subject on the Three Dog Thursday roundtable, and that would be the interesting case of Elena Delle Donne, who is the top player in the WNBA. Elena is right now, along with the other WNBA players, trying to evaluate, are we going to be able to have our season? They never got underway in the WNBA. She is contending that publicly for the first time that she has Lyme disease. She has disclosed this now for the first time, and that she takes, and I'm showing for those that are seeing us on the video, she put on a open letter on the Players Tribune website a photo of the amount of pills that she has to take every day to help her body combat Lyme's disease to be able to play. She is contending that she went in front of a panel of doctors on behalf of the WNBA who basically said to her, you are able to play. You are not at any more risk than anybody else to come and play and contract coronavirus. And so her choice now is to take that risk or to not be paid her WNBA salary. All right, so the point is to you guys, and Elena Delle Donne, one of the quotes that's the indelible one is, I'm now left with two choices. Here's the quote that we're showing people on the video. I can either risk my life or forfeit my paycheck. Honestly, that hurts. Again, this is the premier player in the WNBA that they're saying this to, that they're doing this to. Back to the panel. Colby, to you first. I mean, the Major League Baseball has already had players say, I'm not playing. There are NFL players who are hinting, I may not play. What do you make of this now that we have something with the top player in the WNBA being told this?
Oh, well, first off, I don't blame her because, I mean, we don't know much. I feel like we don't know that much about this COVID-19 still to this day. We're learning every day, but at the same time, she has Lyme disease. I wouldn't want to probably risk it either, not knowing truly what could happen or if you're more susceptible despite some doctors' opinions. At the same time, though, I know the WNBA, I think, doesn't the NBA cover a lot of their money? Like
a lot of it, yes.
Yeah. So I understand the business side of it. So, I mean, I think maybe maybe they can meet in the middle or something, but if not, I mean, I get it. It makes sense to me that if you don't play, you wouldn't get paid. But I also, like I said, if I'm her, I probably wouldn't play either.
Chris Fischer, to you, what do you make of this with Elena Delle Donne?
Not to make light of the situation, but talk about risk. Colby looks like he's standing by a dumpster behind a bank, and they probably have security cameras there, and he's at his fourth Wells Fargo bank today. And, I mean, the bandana says it all, brother. I mean, you got the beard.
I think it's safe to say he is definitely someone of interest right now in that parking lot. Very true. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Suspicious. Very suspicious. But getting back to Elena Delle Donne, here, a couple of other things for her. You showed the 64 pills a day, which is just incredible. She spoke to the fact in that Players Tribune article that she knows it's something that will affect her later in life, taking all these pills. And if you've ever seen the Real Sports documentary story on her with her sister Lizzie, who has an incredible disease that she helps take care of her for, that's also a big component to this. And I also think this story not only ties into the health factor, but I think it ties into the health of our times factor, because you look at equality across the board. All lives matter at this point. Men, women, black, yellow, white. It does not matter. And so therefore, the NBA making all this money off television revenue and being able to support the WNBA, They need to be able to support these players' positions, whether they feel well enough to take the court or not well enough to take the court, and then to be able to uphold that contract situation, because she is a supreme star within the WNBA. And when you have owners like Atlanta last week and what they said about the players, that owner was completely wrong about the situation. The WNBA needs to the NBA needs to step up for their sisterhood over there and their sisters, and take care of the WNBA in this regard and pay those salaries, because the NBA players, if they chose not to play, they're still getting paid. The WNBA needs to have that same result. And
again, it's not as if she's just a player, a run-of-the-mill player. This is the premier player in the league. This is the league MVP on the championship team.
This is like LeBron saying, I'm not playing. I'm opting out for my kids' sake.
Right. Well, and so, again, it is something, and this is going to be happening. I mean, we already saw out on the West Coast, Colby Dant, David Price is saying, for family reasons and health reasons, I'm not going to play the baseball season for the Dodgers when it resumes. And Chris and I are familiar with David Price from his days with the Tampa Bay Rays before he went to the Red Sox. I'm going to sit here and say I can't be in a position, neither should anybody else, to tell somebody you have to play. Now, the whole money thing is a different thing on how they work that out. And what she's saying is I should still be paid. Again, it's a tough spot. She's the face of the league right now too. So I understand that point. Go ahead, Colby.
I think what makes it interesting is that if they pay her, they're going to have to pay anyone that anyone
Correct.
in the league. I think that has to sit out. And I think that another thing we talked about, and like I said, I don't know off the top of my head, but if the NBA is playing and, like I said, empty, how much are these owners getting hit for the fact that they're not having those 82 home games? I know this happened late in the year, so maybe they're not hit as bad, but you've got to wonder if looking forward, if the season's supposed to start in November or wherever they're going to start the next season, is that going to be an issue playing into that? So there's many things to think about here, but yeah, obviously you would think that the NBA makes enough money to at least, if you can't pay the whole thing, find a middle ground or something. I get it. We'll
find out with her. All right, Chris, you had one more point.
I do want to say this.
Fire away.
Colby brings up the money situation. I've spoken with people within the NBA over the last couple of weeks, and they tell me the reason that they added these 8 games, they wanted everybody to get to the 70-game mark, not just warm-ups. It was apparent that they got to the 70-game mark to be able to get the revenue from the regional television contracts, so that they could afford to put on the postseason, or go into the postseason and pay the WNBA and the NBA players.
Because the line for those network TV deals and for the regional deals was 70 games. You got to get to 70 games for the payout, and that's what they're trying to do. So they're balancing all that. There's so much money flowing every which direction for the NFL and the NBA. You would figure they would be able to work it out. All right, we got to get out of here. Final thoughts from the parking lot of the Wells Fargo in LA. Colby Dant, you can rant on anything you want. I know we're plugging away. The Sports Gambling Podcast is typically where we find you. You guys are still doing the Madden simulations right now for the Madden tournament from last year's NFL playoffs, using this year's roster, 2020 roster. So like Cam Newton's on the Patriots and stuff. You guys are still doing the Madden simulations. So we get a plug in there. What else do you want to rant on from the parking lot of the Wells Fargo?
Well, look, yeah, still doing the Madden simulations. Check out All Things Comedy, Bill Burr's Comedy Network. We're broadcasting games on there and Twitch and Twitter, pretty much every platform, Facebook, stuff like that. But I will say, I'll rant on Dak Prescott. Just take the money. All right, look, I'm sitting here. I need some quarters. You know what I mean?
This man has been in a parking lot for about 4 hours in the heat, needing some quarters, and you're telling Dak, just take the money.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, clearly there's a quarter shortage here. I take that 30. What was it? 31? What was it?
Yeah.
32?
Yes.
Look, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a sports agent, but I'm saying for a guy that's got a great offensive line, I don't know how good Dak Prescott would be if he was on the Cincinnati.
No doubt.
Put it like that.
No doubt. All right, Chris Fischer, on that note, anything you want to rant on, riff on? The floor is yours.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I've been saying it for a couple of months now. I went on Tampa Bay radio way back in March and said it there a couple of times. I feel terrible for the Tampa Bay fans who have waited to be winners and contenders and be the talk and toast of the NFL. To have Tom Brady and that wide receiving group, it's got to feel amazing for the Bucs faithful. But to not have butts in the red-hot Ray J seats that's disappointing for Tampa Bay fans out there. TJ, I know you'll do a fantastic job with the Buccaneers if there is a season. And for my man Colby, we would have stood outside as long as you have, we'd be butt naked by now. Because there's no way you can deal with the Florida heat standing outside like that.
Especially with a hat
Enjoy
and the
that LA
bandana. Yeah, he's got the LA heat, which is a different kind of heat. But yeah, and for the NFL season, we don't know. We don't know fans. We don't know fans social distance. We don't know no fans. Again, it's going to probably be week to week here through July and August till we figure all that out. But yeah, so much anticipation for Brady and the Buccaneers. Let's get the season rolling. Let's hope. Let's get to see everybody be safe. We understand. Let's be reasonable with the coronavirus. I know they're on lockdown in LA where Colby is. They're locking down in South Florida in the Miami-Dade County area where Chris is residing. A lot of people all over the country are experiencing what's going on again here. So let's just everybody be safe as we rock along here this summer. Guys, great job. Thank you for hanging with me on the Three Dog Thursday podcast, especially Colby Dant in the heat in the parking lot of the bank. That is a first. That is outstanding. Yes, I'll join in on the applause. That is outstanding. Find him at the Colby D on Twitter to make sure he's still alive and he got his quarters. Find Chris at Chris Fischer 07 on Twitter. Follow this show at Three Dog Thursday. My thanks also to our guest, Brian Edwards of MajorWager.com, and also the new Jock Market guys, the sponsor here on Three Dog Thursday, Dave Eisman and Jock Market. Go get the app, Jock Market, and trade those players when the NBA starts up on the games every day. I'm merely TJ Reeves. Thank you for being with me on Three Dog Thursday. Bye.